Greetings everyone. The video effect you are currently watching was created entirely in Boris Graffiti. Everything has been created based on the shape of a three-dimensional cube. Creating the cube is accomplished through a mouse click. Just decide what images to use and their arrangement. PNG images with transparency, JPEGs and more. You can apply filters, animated effects, and much more. The tools required to do this are already at your fingertips. With practice, and the guidelines presented here.
Okay, I've already loaded a still image into my timeline. I've applied Boris Graffiti to it. I'm now going to open Boris Graffiti. And if this is what you see when you open Boris Graffiti, you may want to watch my tutorial covering how you customize this workspace, because the default layout just doesn't give you easy access to all the features. Okay, in order to show you the timeline, the controls panel, and the composite window all at the same time, I am now going to switch to a different layout. Okay, to select tracks in your timeline, all you do is click on it. You've now selected the background. I'm going to select this text track, and I'm going to delete it because I'm not going to use it. All you got to do is hit delete. And now we create the foundation for the cube. You just come up to this cube, click on it, and you now have a cube track. I'm now going to scale the size of the cube down somewhat, tumble and rotate it so that you can see the wireframe makeup of the cube. And what you do is you attach images or other items to all these individual faces of the cube. All you do to access the individual faces is come down to this, twirl it down, and here is all your individual faces. There are several things that you can attach to a cube face, and the way you do that is I'm going to select the front face first. This T represents a text track. So if I wanted to put text across the front face of the cube, that is what I would use. A spline object in general makes a pretty nice banner to apply your text to. You can also go with a spline primitive, which is similar except it's shapes, and you can also color them and change the border and a lot of other things. Natural down here is generally used to apply texture to things. You could use that image if you wanted to, but I'm not going to get into that creation right now. Okay, gradients are highly customizable. You can do a lot of things with them quite easily. The number of things you can do I'm not going to cover too deeply at this point, but you can change these things in so many ways. Okay. And then last but not least, we get, color. Color is self-explanatory, just change colors. Now last but not least will be your still images. Usable still images consist of JPEGs, PNGs with transparency, and several other formats. I've used this one with the transparency PNG just as an example. You then simply select your next tracks and keep adding images until you've completed your cube. I'm going to pause the video and complete my cube now. Okay, I've completed building the cube. You don't see the additional images because here, you see this eyeball? This turns on and off individual tracks. Okay, I'm going to turn these on. And here is my complete cube. I'm just going to spin it around a hair just so you can take a peek. All sides are complete. Okay. So now that the cube is complete, I want to start applying a few special effects so you can see how those work. One other thing I want to bring up real quick is that you don't have to always complete a complete cube if you don't want to. You can make a partial cube to whatever level you want to complete a cube. It's entirely up to you. Okay. Now, I'm going to start by applying a filter to the front face. These filters are all fully customizable and completely animatable. They can change over the course of time. Not only is there a drop-down menu for several preset effects, once you choose one, you have all these parameters to adjust. So these are very, very customizable. I'm going to spin this cube just a little bit. Okay, now, oops. Now I'm going to apply a glitter filter to this particular side, but the only way you can do that is I'm going to apply the filter, and it always applies to the front first. So you have to come over to your timeline and grab this and drag it to the left face. That's how you apply it to the individual sides. By default, it always shows up in the front face. There are quite a number of other things that you can adjust. I'm not going to be going into too deep of detail into any of these because it would take far too long to cover. Okay, in the composite, this is how you can adjust your brightness and contrast on the entire cube. And there's some other, parameters you can adjust as well. Now, if you're adjusting stuff like this and you decide that, boy, I screwed up, I wish I could just set it back to where I was, everything that you adjust within any one of these individual windows can be completely reset by coming down to this little R right here and click. Everything is now reset. The cube itself, this is a displacement. This is how you blow the cube apart. Like everything else, this is all keyframeable and totally customizable. Mask. The mask is the control of the entire screen. It's almost like a crop. There is an actual crop that crops the cube itself. Okay. And you can feather the crop, which makes kind of a nice soft effect. And the overall look, I mean, there's so many different ways you can play with this stuff. Motion blur is applied to sharp images in a way that makes them look as if they are actually in motion. Okay, camera. This will change the camera angle in 3D space. That's almost a tutorial in itself. I'm not going to get into that. You can put a drop shadow around your cube. Lighting, you can change the overall lighting effect as it hits the cube, how everything is affected. The cube spins from its center. It always spins from the center unless you adjust the pivot point. Just as an example, I'm going to adjust this pivot point to the side a little bit, and it is no longer going to spin around its center axis. I'm going to come here. I'm going to show you that. See, now it's a little more like a rocking chair. And you have control over all three parameters, so you can make this cube really spin and go way off in the distance and come back around and, kind of make you dizzy kind of a thing. Okay, my upcoming tutorials are going to get deeper into working with motion, keyframes, etc. And I'm also going to get into some of the other special things you can do in Boris Graffiti. At this time, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something, and I want to wish you all a great day.